And we got Justin Lotta. And real quick, I'm getting roasted on the chat for the Steve Nash take. If anyone wants to go head-to-head, I'll go head-to-head. Steve Nash is absolutely a top 5 point guard. We got Justin Lotta now of the Guardians, Locked On Guardians podcast host. What's up, Justin? How you doing, man?
Hey, guys. How's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Justin was an intern at the radio station years ago, right, Justin?
I was. It's been 10 years now. Hard to believe, right?
How was Bull as a boss?
I wasn't his boss. I mean, I don't know.
Well, did you work with
Bull?
Yeah,
I was on with Baskin and Phelps in the afternoon, but I ran into Bull occasionally. It was always good to see him in there.
Good. Treated you well?
No, I was probably
absolutely.
It's horrible.
Hey, what's your number? Well, let's go right in for the where the rubber meets the road here. What's your number of wins? I think conventional wisdom seems to be somewhere between 85 and 90. What do you think of that?
I think the number I've seen has been 87, and we've been telling people to bet the over on that. So I would say over 87 at least.
So tell us why, because one of the reasons I think the number is so low, because when you look at what they did last year, I think on that alone, and based on they upgraded some of their weaknesses, and most of the major pieces are back, you would think that number went up. But my theory on why it's where it is because the experts are fearful that what they did last year is going to be difficult to duplicate. First year to second year success.
And another part of it is the schedule has changed.
The schedule's different.
So
they no longer have the 19 games
Tigers,
or whatever against their. But what do you think about why it's as low as it is?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Jay. I think that has to do with the fact that it's going to be hard to repeat. I've said multiple times that when you rely on contact as your offense, there's a lot of potential for random variance there. Now, hopefully, how they've changed the shift and the rules with that might help them out a little bit. But you also have a lot of young and inexperienced players. I mean, we've only seen Oscar Gonzalez for about a half a season. That was Andres Jimenez's breakout year. There are some people who are fearful that, he could regress a little bit. And for the most part, they were relatively healthy last year. I think Oscar Gonzalez spent time in the IL. Obviously, Jose Ramirez had a thumb issue throughout the year, at least the second half. Hopefully him coming back healthy this year offsets whatever potential regression is there. And then, they didn't get anything out of the catcher spot last year. Hopefully they will this year, but Mike Zunino's coming off an injury. And then as Adam said, the schedule has changed. You're not playing 19 games within the schedule within the AL Central anymore. And the AL Central looks as bad as it has been. So now you've got to play a lot of other better teams, especially when you're talking about, American League East teams, National League East teams, the Dodgers, things like that. So I think there's a lot of reason for people to be skeptical about it, but I do think they have the pieces to at least improve on last season or match their win total.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. And I would just assume that the White Sox will be better this year, too. I mean, maybe with a new manager. I mean, who knows? You never know from year to year. I think the Twins will be better. I think the Royals...
White Sox lost a big piece, though.
Losing Abreu, sure, but they had a lot of injuries last year. They had a ton of injuries.
And I don't think they love La Russa. Do you think that was a factor in why they performed so poorly last year?
I think they might improve win total just without having Tony La Russa. I do. I think there was something to that. But they also improved other places, too. I still don't think the White Sox are the biggest threat to the Guardians. I've been saying for a couple of years it's been the Twins, and I sort of haven't been right on that yet, but one of these years I will be, and I think the Twins have pulled above the White Sox. But, both of them were in the race until the end last season, so a new manager and a new vibe in Chicago certainly could change things around for them.
Justin, let's talk about we talked about the new additions there a little bit. Josh Bell. Well, I think there's another gear to his game. How good do you think he's going to be this year?
Yeah, you want him to get to more power, right? I mean, he's had a 37 home run season under his belt. I don't know if he'll ever get back to that level. He was on a good path last season in Washington before the trade, and then things really went south for him in San Diego, and I'm not quite sure why. But I think he'll at least improve on what he did last year. I think, like you said, there is another gear to his game. He's proven there's another gear to his game. He's been a good hitter, and he was a top prospect way back when. So I think he fits in very well with this lineup, too. He's a guy who can take his walks, which, for as contact-oriented as this team was a year ago, they didn't draw a lot of walks. They were very reliant on that contact. So I think between Bell's power and patience and the fact that he also does not strike out, I think fits this lineup perfectly. And I think if he has Jose Ramirez on base in front of him, that's going to be good for him.
I am disappointed, though, that the Guardians didn't do anything with the pitching staff. I mean, to rely on Savali and Plesac in the back of the rotation, I would have loved to see them go out and spend a little money on a veteran starting pitcher that's more reliable. Even Quantrill, like I'm not that comfortable with Quantrill pitching in the playoffs. I'd like them to have a steady, solid veteran that you're comfortable throwing as your third or fourth starter in the playoffs, and I'm disappointed they didn't do that. Are you worried about that?
Yeah, in some ways I'm not. So the reasons I'm worried, I agree with you. I think ideally, and this is not a slight to Cal Quantrill, had a great season last year and kind of defies, projections and other metrics. But I think you'd be more comfortable with him maybe starting your fourth game and not relying what maybe happened with Aaron Savali and Zach Plesac in the ALDS against the Yankees. I think ideally you'd find someone to slot in behind Tristan McKenzie and really improve yourself, because look what the Yankees went on. They added Carlos Rodon, and I know they've got injury issues in the rotation, but I think they just need that third starter right behind Bieber and McKenzie. And of course you have to worry about Bieber's, impending free agency in 2 years. I don't know that spending money on a free agent starter would have made sense for this team, but finding maybe a path or a trade, we've talked about a lot how many prospects this team has, and can they cash in on some of those and kind of rework their 40-man roster. That trade didn't pan out, whether it was for a hitter or a pitcher. I don't know if that trade even existed for them. But on the other hand, if they can find a way to work some of these young pitchers into the rotation, if they can keep Cody Morris healthy, maybe get him into a rotation spot, a couple other guys, Daniel Espino is now hurt, unfortunately. I don't know if he'll be able to be a factor in the rotation this year. You've got Logan Allen in the minors who could be a factor this year. A number of pitching prospects who could be a factor. So if they can improve internally using their pitching prospects, maybe that's an alternate avenue for success in the rotation, although you'd be depending on more young players like you did a year ago, which is, always risky.
Well, Justin, that's what they've done. They've pulled up these pitching prospects, and somehow they all seem to, strike gold. I was looking at the odds yesterday for the American League Cy Young, and I was a little bit surprised that I think Bieber was 9th in the American League. But I got to tell you, I love Bieber, I do, but I think the guy that's being overlooked in this race is Tristan McKenzie. I look at his stuff and his record last year. His record should have been far better. I think he was 11-11. His ERA was sub-3. He's a swing and miss pitcher. I'm going to take him as my dark horse to win the American League Cy Young this year, because I think he's got Cy Young stuff right now, and he's only getting better.
I think dark horse is a really good word to describe it. Last season was really his first full, healthy, consistent season. He was, healthy all of 2021, but had a bunch of inconsistencies throughout the year, had to go back to the minors. Last year, he was good throughout the year, didn't go back to the minors, and he stayed healthy. He had health issues in the minors as well, but, now he's got that 190-inning season under his belt. He knows his stuff is good. He knows he can get anybody out. He pitched great in that game against the Rays. Not such a good performance against the Yankees, but something he can learn from. I agree. I think if he can maintain what he did last year and maybe hopefully take a step forward, stay healthy and continue on the path that he's been on, I agree. He's somebody you could talk about as a down ballot contender for Cy Young, and that would be great for this team.
Justin, I'm a fringe guy. I'm going to go to the ballpark, a few times a year, pull them up on my Bally's app as long as that lasts. Who knows how that's going to work out. But the fringe guys, we be asking, y'all, this team and a lot of baseball people be really coveting these prospects. Now, my question is, are these prospects going to show up and play sometime this year? Or are they just going to sit there and be prospects, or are we going to trade them for somebody else? So, these guys rave about this Espino guy. He's hurt, right?
He re-injured his arm.
Yeah. So he's out of here. Gavin Williams, is he going to be up this year anytime? No?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
Okay. Tanner Bibby, is he a guy he's good? Or?
I mean, he's good.
Good, but I don't think there's plans for him this year, Justin, unless I'm wrong. I mean, what do you think?
I've been kind of trying to say it for a few weeks now that I think Tanner Bibby could force his way up this season. It would be difficult. They have a lot of 40-man roster issues to work through before it could happen, and they have guys in front of him. But to me, Tanner Bibby might be the best pitching prospect in the system when you factor in stuff and health as well. Health is a factor here.
Right.
Lord, you got a lot of second basemen / shortstops.
I think that's why a lot of people were disappointed they didn't make a big trade this offseason. It's what Justin alluded to, why he suggested, instead of me suggesting go sign a veteran pitcher, maybe they should have traded for somebody instead, because they do. I mean, first of all, they called up 1 million prospects. They have 17 guys make their major league debut last year, and now they still got a ton of young kids. They can't keep them all. That's why they've basically given away Will Benson and Nolan Jones over the past 6 months for free. And so it is a little surprising that they haven't made a significant move, and why, Justin, I think they still might, hopefully, whether it's now or at the trade deadline.
Yeah, you hope something emerges at the trading deadline. I mean, one pitcher that people have really kind of talked about is Corbin Burns from the Brewers. You know, he had a ugly arbitration battle with his team. He's not happy with them and how they went about that. And he's a free agent in 2 years. That makes things complicated because he's on the same free agency timeline as Shane Bieber, and who knows if they'll pull that off. But they have the prospects to essentially trade for anybody. It's just a matter if that trade exists for them. You know, they went hard after, well, I don't know, say hard, but they were interested in Sean Murphy of Oakland and didn't get that done because they didn't want to give up whatever Oakland was asking for, or, you know, there wasn't a match there. But teams have to be also interested in their prospects, and they also have to be willing to meet Cleveland's price. As we've heard before, Cleveland is sometimes difficult to deal with in terms of trades.
They're trying to fleece everybody.
Because they do fleece everybody.
Benefit of the doubt.
I would be hesitant to do a trade with the Guardians because I would be asking this: what am I missing? I'm missing something. I don't know what it is, because their track record has been really, really good. Justin, the changes are going to be really interesting to see a couple of things. A, how they all impact pace of play and the length of game. But the other thing that I'm really fascinated about is what the shift is going to do. How much more offense will we see because of it? And Bull has made this point, and I agree with him, that the shift should benefit the Guardians more than the average team. Do you agree with that? And if so, why?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it should benefit them quite a bit. I think you saw a lot of times last year guys playing deep in right field for like Josh Naylor. Jose Ramirez obviously has been getting hit with this for a long time. Even Stephen Kwan got shifted on at times last year. Josh Bell has been a guy who's been shifted a lot in his career. So those guys should all see improvements in their game this year. But, you know, the shift isn't totally banned. It just changes how people are allowed to maneuver their infield. So I still think teams will be creative in finding ways to position their players to make up for things. But yeah, I think that you have a high contact team. You have a lot of players who have had some success hurt by the shift in the past, and now you take that away. I think some guys here should benefit from that.
Thanks, Justin. We appreciate it, man.
Yep, good job, brother. We'll talk soon, all right? Enjoy the season.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I think part of the reason, I mean, the Guardians are a put the ball in play team.
They are.
They're not a home run hitting team. So if you put the ball in play and you can't shift as much, it should help you.
Has that style been success? We talk about it in football all the time. Is it a run or is it a pass? Can you win with defense? Can you win playing baseball games, hitting the contact? Has it ever happened?
I'll give you the answer. In the modern game, no. They absolutely can't win a World Series with the lack of power that they show.
I think winning the World Series with the little power they have is now like winning without a great
how do you
quarterback.
get
It could happen.
This is
it's unlikely.
First of all, this is groundbreaking what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because we talk about this all the time. Like, what's the ceiling? How can you win? I've never heard you.
It's much harder. I don't agree. I don't agree with Jay a lot that you couldn't possibly do it. It hasn't happened in a few years. It used to happen all the time.
So how are you going to acquire power?
Well, they tried to.
Unless you give up some of your pieces.
Well, they did. I mean, they signed a player that's got good power.
No, Josh Bell.
And could have great power. And here's the other thing.
And Zunino
Zanino's
has
coming
much
in.
more power
much
than
more
Hedges,
power
if he's
in
healthy.
the catcher's position.
Yeah.
And the other thing, too, is, and this is a rub-off factor, but getting a bat to put behind Jose Ramirez, you've now strengthened 1.5 positions in the lineup because you have somebody behind him that is going to put fear into pitch. They're not going to want to just pitch around Ramirez.
Right.
They're going to have to throw Ramirez more strikes.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to give him better-looking pitches. And so he's probably, I would like to see him.
And they need some other guys.
More,
I mean, they're hoping that Oscar Gonzalez is a 30 home run guy.
They are.
That's what they're hoping, you know. And then some of these other guys, you hope. The Guardians, with their current, they don't have to be a top 5 team in home runs. They can't. It's impossible.
No,
but
they won't.
They got to get close to the middle of the pack, probably.
And, Bull, here's why. So if you look at the playoff series they won last year, it was against another team that also didn't hit home runs.
Right.
The Rays are in the Guardians' image. They're a very similar team to what the Guardians
Right.
are.
But in the end,
then they ran into the Yankees, and what are the Yankees known for? You talked about it a couple of weeks ago. You can hold them down for 7 innings, but that 3-run home run is coming.
But you know what? That series was an even match until the last game.
It was, but
And
in the end, what was the difference? The
It was
3-run
a
home run.
And then had you won, you would have to play the Astros.
And guess what? The Yankees couldn't match up with the Astros' power.
Yeah. Well, they could power-wise,
In the
but
series,
the rest
they
of the
didn't.
team.
In the series, they didn't, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's much harder to win now without having a lot of home runs.
I got you.
It's harder. I don't think it's impossible.
Even if your pitching's mediocre.
So what is the magic number here that you think that takes us over the top and wins-wise? What do you think that number is?
I think we can win 90 again. I do. I think 90 will win the division.
Yeah.
I do think that number.
I actually think high 80s will win the division.
Well,
think
it could
80
be
I got 88.
because they're not going to rack up so many cheap wins against Kansas
Yeah.
City and Detroit.
Right.
That was a huge benefit to the
I
Guardians.
mean, you're
last
losing
year.
12 to 14 games against those two awful teams.
Yeah, and that's if you win 8 of those 12.
Now, some of the games you're making up are against bad teams too, because you're gonna the additional games are coming from the national. Because you're now
League.
playing every National League team, so
Right.
there are some bad teams in the National League also. But the Royals and Tigers are particularly bad, and the Guardians have consistently had their number in recent years.
So, to your question ultimately about the home run and can you win a World Series without being a home run hitting team?
Hitting the contact,
So,
putting the ball in play.
Yeah, last year, well, this is wrong. I don't know why this is.
The only thing I'd say, Jay, is most of the teams that don't hit home runs are not good. So I don't know that we have enough of a sample size in recent years.
Here's the teams that were at the top of the home run hitting list last year. Yankees, number 1.
Yeah.
Playoffs.
Now, they play in a park that allows them to hit a lot of home runs. It's a hitter's park for sure. Number 2, Atlanta,
Right.
Playoffs.
playoff team. Number 3, Milwaukee. Okay.
They weren't very good.
They're an outlier.
Yeah.
Number 4, Houston. Number 5, the Dodgers.
Yep.
Number 6, the Phillies. You're seeing a trend here, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now let me take you down to the bottom of that list.
Okay.
Detroit,
Garbage.
Cleveland, an outlier, but they do something that you mentioned that no other team does. They put the ball in play more than every other team in baseball.
Right.
They don't strike out. Washington, bottom of the list. Oakland, bottom. Kansas City, bottom. Tampa Bay, again, another outlier, but built very much like the Guardians are. Miami, Colorado. So you see the trend.
I would say, and by the way, Colorado's a great hitter's park, so that's even more embarrassing.
You're right.
Right.
They have that few home runs.
But I would say that I do think it's hard to win the way the Guardians are doing it. However, what I would say is that the Guardians and Rays are the only good teams that don't have that big-time power.
You're right.
And that's been the case for a while.
they're built the same
And
way.
so we don't have enough data yet to know if you can win that way.
Yeah. It hasn't happened yet,
No.
but that doesn't mean it can't happen.
Right.
And also,
But I don't think it can.
Think about
Usually
it.
it's just bad team. Like those other teams, they don't hit for power and they don't hit, period.
Right. They're just bad all the way around.
But don't you have to factor in that the Rays and the Guardians have an unproportionate amount of great pitching? Their bullpens in the front, their rotations are awesome, so that keeps
Yeah,
them in.
they both
Guardians-
had great bullpens.
Yeah, but the Guardians' rotation is not great. They've got Shane Bieber's a top 10 pitcher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tristan McKenzie was excellent last year, but he's only done it for 1 year. The rest of their rotation is average or below.
Well, I'm talking about over the sample size of 5 to 7 years.
Oh, well, sure, but the Guardians, but they had more power. When they were in 16, 17, 18, they had a lot more power
They
than
did.
They
They
do
had
now.
much more power.